Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. Now that September has come and gone, you may have noticed a big absence from last month. For the first time this generation, Nintendo didn't hold a Nintendo Direct. But of course, I think you all know how this works. That doesn't stop the daily rumors that the Switch successor will be revealed tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day, or the next day, or the next day. I think you all kind of get where I'm going with this. Well, about all that, a lot of people are once again pegging the month of October as the Switch successor month because apparently a reputable insider gave us a new scoop. Or did they really? Well, we're going to talk about all of that here in a little bit because I do have some thoughts about this situation. Now, we're also going to talk about Xbox because they seemingly are confused about a situation that they currently find themselves in. And I think this could actually be an interesting development for them as they prepare for their next generation of consoles. Let's just go and jump right into things, though, starting off with the month of October, because it's actually shaping up to be a pretty fun month, which I think that is something that the game community really needs right now. There's been a lot of negativity in the last month or two, but next week alone, we do have 3 bigger games to look forward to. Silent Hill 2 Remake is set to release on the 8th, and then on the 11th, both Metapho Refantazio and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero launches on the exact same day. I don't know about all of that, but we do actually have some good news for all 3 of these games. Famitsu just posted their reviews for Silent Hill 2 and Refantazio, and while I don't necessarily take their reviews as anything definitive per se, it is interesting to get new details for upcoming games. In this case, they gave Refantazio a 37 out of 40, and they said that it feels very similar to the Persona series, which is something that keeps cropping up about this game. It does share a lot in common with the Persona series, but instead in more of a fantasy world. Now, personally, I find that to be incredibly exciting. I love the Persona series, and I also like fantasy. It is my favorite genre of books, and it's probably one of the reasons that I like gaming so much. There's a lot of fantasy stuff in games. So this definitely seems like a great match for me personally. Now, they also noted that its runtime will take you anywhere between 80 to 100 hours. So as you'd expect from the former Persona team, which is all the more reason why it plays similar to Persona. But yeah, there will be a lot of content in Refantazio. Now, I will say that there has been conversations about how this game has been advertised, but I think that if it consistently reviews well, as we're seeing here, which I'm pretty optimistic about, I think that's really when people will start to take notice of Metapho Refantazio. For me, though, my hype levels just continues to rise, and I think this could be a surprise hit for 2024. Now, as for Silent Hill 2, they gave it a 35 out of 40, and I think the most interesting thing that they mentioned was that according to them, its playtime is around 16 to 18 hours. Now, the reason that stands out is because the original game was much shorter than that. According to How Long to Beat, on average, the PlayStation 2 version was only 8 hours, and if you're a completionist, 15 hours. So I'm kind of curious as to why the playtime has jumped up by 100%. But if anything else, I guess we'll see here soon enough when it releases next week on October 8th. Then, of course, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is set for next week as well. Like I said, the exact same day as Refantazio. And out of the 3, it's actually tracking the best over on Steam. If you look over the global bestsellers, you'll notice that it's the #1 pay-to-play game currently. So it's tracking incredibly well, and just for comparison's sake here, Silent Hill 2 is currently at the number 11 spot, and then Refantazio sits at number 17. So Sparking Zero is shaping up to be a big-time release, and why not? You know, Dragon Ball has always been a money-making machine, and that continues in 2024. As a big Dragon Ball fan myself, I love seeing its success. Hopefully the new anime, Dragon Ball Daima, will do good as well. Now, speaking of things that I like, it's no big secret that I am a big fan of the Metal Gear Solid series, and Konami was recently asked about the future of Metal Gear Solid and whether or not they want to do more remakes after Metal Gear Solid Delta. Well, the Metal Gear Solid producer responded with a rather interesting answer. You can see this posted here by Genki, and it says, Metal Gear Solid series producer says if they were to remake Metal Gear Solid 1 or Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, they couldn't do it in the same way as Metal Gear Solid Delta, and they would have to create many new parts. He says that they are also thinking about if it's okay to make the next game in the series, but they will think about the next steps for the series after getting feedback from Metal Gear Solid Delta. He then says, before everyone who was involved in the original is gone, we need to create a path to preserve the Metal Gear series for 10 to 50 years into the future. I think this is something we have to do. So if anything else, it does appear that they will revive the entire series. I mean, I think that we already knew this to some extent. That Volume 2 collection is eventually going to come, and that very well could include Metal Gear Solid 4, Peace Walker, and Metal Gear Rising. Now, whether or not they'll remake more games in the style of Delta, that seemingly depends on its success, but in my opinion, I do think that's their best path forward. The idea of a new Metal Gear Solid game without Kojima, that'll be a tough ask for Konami because they will be under a microscopic lens. But I think they could definitely revive the original, similar to how Capcom has remade the Resident Evil franchise. I think that's probably their safest bet right now, but let me know what you all think about all this. Do you like the idea of a new game without Kojima, or do you think it's best for them to just focus on remakes before looking forward? Okay, so let's go talk about Xbox because we actually have two different things happening here. One is for Starfield and its new expansion, Shattered Space. It just released a few days back, and reviews are currently rolling in now. Now, unfortunately, though, it's been very divisive. Now, to be fair here, I have seen a lot of people online talk about how they're enjoying it, so if you're in that group, that's fantastic. But if you look at Metacritic, or if you look at its user reviews on Steam, it's mostly been negative. On Metacritic, it has a 54 overall score, and then Steam's user reviews sit at 36%. So I'm fairly positive this is not the outcome that Xbox and Bethesda were hoping for. And this has reflected on its player count as well, or at least over on Steam. It did receive a boost the day that it launched as it jumped to 21,000 players on September 30th. That's up from 14,000 the day prior. But, I mean, you would think for its first expansion that it could rise well beyond just 21,000. I mean, there's always a chance that it could be tracking better over on Xbox, but currently, this appears to be a very lukewarm response for its first expansion. Now, admittedly, and I said this the other day, I haven't played Shattered Space myself yet, but I do intend to do that in the future as I did enjoy the base game. So let me know what you all think about Shattered Space. If you've played it, let me hear your opinion in the comments below. Do you agree with the reviews, or do you think that it deserves a better overall score? Now, apparently Xbox is also trying to solve the problem as to why certain developers prioritize PlayStation over the Xbox platform. I mean, it seems like there's always a few of these games at any given time. You know, sometimes that's just from an independent studio that might have fewer resources, and then at other times it can be for more prolific games like Baldur's Gate 3 as one such example. It is something that seemingly happens at Xbox on a regular enough basis that now they want to ask developers about it specifically. This was posted up by The Verge, and you can read here. It says, Microsoft wants to hear from game developers who might be skipping Xbox or those already building games using the company's developer tools. The software maker is expanding its Xbox research team to include the community of game developers, seeking feedback directly from developers about tools, support, and the overall pain points of the Xbox platform. And while all of this sounds pretty typical, the quote that everybody seems to be focused on is where Microsoft said, if you aren't on Xbox, we'd love to know why. And honestly, if you are using our competitors' products, you probably have a great perspective we could learn from. And I think you can kind of see why this quote is blowing up the way that it is. It definitely makes it seem like Xbox is maybe a little bit confused by this situation. And, you know, that's amusing to think about. But at the same time, you also have to kind of understand that this is them doing their due diligence so they can better prepare for their future. And that's how this reads to me. I mean, again, you know, it's amusing to think about, but this to me reads as if they are preparing for their next generation consoles, and they're just trying to gather as much developer feedback as they can to build out what developers want. I mean, I'm fairly positive that Xbox does have a pretty good idea about some of the things that they need to improve on, but if they can get more specific details from developers, especially in how PlayStation does certain things better with their tools and things like that, that could be valuable information for Xbox. I think that's one form of feedback that they want to hear about. But of course, they could also hear about things like Xbox Game Pass, the Xbox Series S, and really just their lower install base compared to PlayStation. So these are all things that will be interesting to see just how frequently they impact developer decisions, especially when it comes to Game Pass and the Xbox Series S. I mean, when it comes to having that lower install base, typically developers do prioritize the more popular platform. But as for Game Pass and for the Series S, it'll be interesting to see just how often these are sticking points for developers. Has Xbox Game Pass negatively impacted certain games, especially on the independent side of things? Exactly how are independent developers faring on Xbox that don't release into Game Pass? And then obviously, when it comes to the Series S, that's been a big talking point all generation long. Some developers have publicly mentioned their gripes for the Series S. And I'm sure that Xbox would like to hear just how common those problems actually are, because this could be valuable information for them as they approach next generation. I mean, we've heard a lot about an Xbox handheld, but they might move away from forcing developers to release games on both their new console and for a weaker platform at the same time, like they do with the Series X and the Series S. I mean, we still need to see how they're going to position themselves next generation, how many SKUs are they going to have, and how they're going to position this new handheld for that matter.
There's still a lot of questions about their next generation platforms, but this research here does kind of read to me like, yes, Microsoft is currently doing the research, their due diligence to make those platforms the best they can for developers. Now let's go ahead and move on over to Nintendo, because yes, we got a new rumor that the Switch successor will be revealed in 2024. And a lot of people are speculating that it will happen as early as this month. Now, the reason for this is because PH Brazil, which has accurately leaked things in the past, said this over on Family Boards. It's the 3rd of October, and you all are already in need of reassurance. Come on. Nothing has changed since the last I spoke about this, a week ago. I still think it's being announced this year. Yes. So, yeah, this is all it took for this rumor to blow up. And that's hilarious to me, because I don't really read this as any kind of leak to me. And, everybody's going to read this differently, but to me, this comes off as nothing more than speculation. I mean, if it happens in October, then hey, that's great. I keep saying that I would love to be wrong about this situation because I want to see the Switch successor, but I just don't look at this as anything definitive. In fact, I'm still very much on the side that the Switch successor won't be revealed until early 2025. To me, I just don't see a reason to believe otherwise. First off, the Switch is still having success. Nintendo still has games planned for this year, and I'm sure that they would like to have a good, successful holiday. And an official Switch successor, while that is exciting for us, I think its reveal could detract from the Switch this holiday. So I just don't see a reason why they need to rush its reveal, and I've yet to see a good explanation for that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about all of this, but that's my prediction, and I'm going to go and stick with it here. The Switch 2 will be revealed in early 2025. According to me, I'm never wrong. Just ask me. I'll tell you. Of course, I'm just joking, but there you go. Early 2025 is still my prediction, despite this newest rumor. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but as always, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, peace out.